So, what makes a culture? What are its deepest ingredients? Well, for Vietnam, the answer isn't really found in books or grand monuments. It's in the land itself. We're going to dig into the ancient roots, the soil, the water, and the philosophies that have nourished this nation for thousands of years.
So let's start with that big question. What actually shapes a culture? I mean, what are the deep down forces that mold how an entire society thinks, how it behaves, and how it organizes itself? For Vietnam, the answer starts right here, in the soil and in the water. It's a culture that is deeply, fundamentally woven into its natural environment. And that connection to the soil and water brings us to the single most important element of Vietnamese culture, rice. Vietnam is, at its very core, a culture completely shaped by it. This is what's known as a wet rice civilization, or Văn Minh Luon Luoc. And this concept is so key because it's not just about farming. It's an entire worldview where society, philosophy, and daily life are all organized around the rhythms of growing rice in flooded paddies. And you can't have wet rice without a lot of water. I mean, to give you a sense of just how dominant water is in the landscape, get this. For every single square kilometer of land in Vietnam, there can be up to 1.5 kilometers of rivers and streams. This constant dance with water and weather is absolutely crucial to understanding everything else. You know, this total dependence on nature forced farmers to become incredibly keen observers. They developed this synthetic way of thinking, always looking for connections between things that might seem unrelated. You can see this practical wisdom captured perfectly in proverbs like, "Golden sunset, expect wind. Red sunset, expect rain." This is knowledge born from the land, passed down for generations. Now, this way of seeing the world, this deep connection to nature, it didn't just create proverbs about the weather. It actually gave rise to a unique philosophy, one centered on the idea of balance and harmony. Right at the heart of this philosophy is the principle of dung, which you probably know as yin and yang. But the thing is, this isn't some abstract, high-level concept. It's a direct reflection of the cycles farmers saw every single day and night, sun and rain, hot and cold. It's all about the balance of complementary, not conflicting, opposites. Let's break that down just a bit. You have or yin, which represents qualities like darkness, cold, passivity, and the feminine. And then you have dung, or yang, representing light, heat, activity, and the masculine. The key idea here is that neither one can exist without the other. They're in this constant dynamic flow. This philosophy of everything being connected gets even more intricate with the theory of Ngũ Hành, or the 5 elements. Now, this table might look a little complex, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Everything is connected in cycles. So take water, for example. In the generate cycle, water helps woods grow. But in the overcomes cycle, water puts out fire. It's a holistic system where every element creates and controls another, forming this complex balanced web that was believed to govern the entire universe. So how does a philosophy of cosmic balance actually translate to daily life? Well, it starts with the most important social unit in Vietnam, the village. Think about it. The demands of wet rice farming, like managing water, building dikes, planting, and harvesting all together, required immense cooperation. This is what forged the traditional heart of Vietnamese life, the collective village, or làng. And in the làng, the community has always come before the individual. And every village had 3 symbolic pillars that really reinforced this collective identity. You had the Din Long, the communal hall, which was the center for everything, administration, festivals, worship. You had the Ben Nuoc, the water landing or village well, which was the social hub, especially for women. And the Cây Đa, that ancient banyan tree at the village entrance, was a sacred spiritual gathering spot. These weren't just places, they were literally the glue that held the community together. This collective spirit is just so beautifully captured in proverbs like this one. Intact leaves protect torn leaves. It's such a powerful metaphor for that deep-seated cultural value of mutual support, of the strong helping the weak, making sure the whole community survives and thrives together. Okay, so we've got a culture rooted in rice farming, guided by a philosophy of balance, and built on a powerful collective spirit. Now let's see how these foundations are expressed in the soul of the culture, its art and its traditions. Take a look at this number. There are nearly 9,000 traditional festivals celebrated across Vietnam. And what's really fascinating is that the vast majority of these aren't just random holidays. They're directly tied to the agricultural calendar, celebrating the planting, the harvest, and praying for good weather. This connection to nature also shines through in folk art. A classic example is the famous woodblock print, The Rat's Wedding. It's a hilarious and satirical scene. You see this parade of rats, and they're forced to bring gifts, fish, and birds, to a fat, smug cat. They're essentially bribing him so their wedding can go on peacefully. It's a brilliant way of using a scene from nature to comment on human society, its power structures, and all its absurdities.
And this brings us to our final point. This strong cultural foundation, this collective spirit and philosophy of balance, has given Vietnam an incredibly resilient spirit, allowing it to adapt through centuries of change and foreign influence.
The evolution of the writing system is a perfect example of this resilience. For 1,000 years, the official script was classical Chinese, or Hen. But then, around the 13th century, scholars developed Nom, a brilliant system that took Chinese characters and adapted them to write the native Vietnamese language. And finally, Quoc Ngu, the Latin-based script used today, was adopted. What this timeline really shows is a constant, centuries-long drive to express a unique, independent identity.
So ultimately, Vietnamese culture has never existed in a vacuum. It's absorbed influences from China, India, and France, but it rarely just copied them. Instead, it has consistently shown this incredible ability to adapt and, well, Vietnamize these influences, integrating them into its own unique cultural framework, while fiercely preserving those core indigenous values that were born in the rice paddies.
And that brings us right back to where we started. We've seen how Vietnam's culture is just inseparable from its environment, which leaves us with a final thought to take away. How has your environments, the land, the climate, the community you grew up in, how has it shaped the way you see the world?